But shifting focus to India's spice market then, reports suggest that FSSAI is preparing new MRL or Maximum Residue Level framework which could improve market access for spice exporters back home. In fact, India has laid out an ambitious export target for the next few years. To discuss the new MRL framework and what is the way forward for India's spice exporters, we now have Mr. Ramkumar Menon, Chairman of World Spice Association and Managing Committee member of AISEF, now joining us. Mr. Menon, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now. And first things first, reports suggest that a revised maximum residue level or MRL framework has been put in place and that it is in the offing. What is the framework all about and how will it help the industry?
Currently, the number of pesticides registered for use in spices and the MRLs which have been established for this is very low. So, FSSAI has only about 11 pesticide spice combinations, for this. Now, some of these MRLs are also below, what we call the limit of quantification. That means it is, not very practical and very difficult to achieve. So the revised framework which FSSAI has come out with, has been expanded to include about 98 MRLs for pesticides which are used in spices, and it is proposed that this number will be increased still further. Now, when that happens, that means the pesticides that can be used legally will be much more, and that will help India in when it discusses issues on pesticide residues with other origins, by both producing and buying origins in the global market. Now, the other thing is to also the default, what we call default MRLs have been fixed at 0.1 mg per kg, that is 0.1 ppm. So that again is very practical instead of the earlier figures which were very stringent. So now this is in line with Codex Alimentarius, which is a body that has been set up by FAO and WHO to determine food and safety standards and food safety and quality standards the world over for various commodities. So, and another thing which will help us a lot in our exports and also in the domestic trade is that the Ministry of Agriculture has, over the years, generated monitoring data for not only for spices but for other commodities for spices for pesticide residue usage, and now this is being used to fix the MRLs, and which makes the process much quicker.
Understood, and that was exactly my next question, Mr. Menon. How will this MRL framework help in aligning domestic standards with global standards? How will it really help domestic spice exporters?
Now, the suggested MRLs in the revised draft, as I told you earlier, are aligned to the Codex standards, which is mainly based on risk assessment. So now India is a major is not only the major spice producing country, it's the largest producer of spices, largest exporter and largest consumer in the world market. So, so in that respect, so Codex looks at our the data that we generate and tries to adopt that data also in setting standards. So it's in that manner that we are aligning it to the global standards. And now that FSSAI has expanded the number of MRLs, the domestic standards will also get aligned with the global standards.
Domestic standards will align with the global standards. That's as far as the new MRL framework is concerned. But India has also laid out some ambitious targets when it comes to exports, and India is eyeing more than doubling spice exports to $10 billion by 2030. What's the outlook going forward, and how will India really achieve this target over the next 4-5 years?
The government has set the industry a target of achieving $10 billion in 2030. And now we are in the process of developing that strategy. But global spice trade is expected to be about $29 billion by 2030. Currently, India is about $4.45 billion out of a total of around $21-22 billion. That means we are about 22% of the global spice trade in terms of value. The target that has been set to us is quite difficult, and the objective is to achieve 10 billion by 2030, which means that we have to increase our share to about 35 or 36%. And so the strategy that is now being put in place is that we are trying to increase the component of the value-added spices in our total spice exports. The value-added component at present is about 50%, around close to 50%. And our intention is to achieve 70% total by 2030, so that we can get to that $10 billion. Now, this calls for a great deal of work both on the part of government and industry. Government, so that it can set policy which will be amenable and which will help the industry by easing business, by making imports of ingredients that are crucial for use in spices which are not available in India, easily available, so that we can import it and for re-export purposes. Likewise, there is a need to upgrade our processing and facilities, as well as our lab and testing facilities. Now, these are areas where government can step in and help us. And along with that, the big plus point is that demand for spices has been increasing, somewhere around 5 to 6% per annum.
So that's as far as the demand environment is concerned. But if you can elaborate on that, what has the demand environment been both in the domestic and in the global market? How much demand and volume growth are we seeing on a year-on-year basis? And which segments really are aiding spice demand in the global market?
The usage of spices has expanded from its usual culinary purposes to the nutraceutical and pharma sectors, basically because of the medicinal values and benefits which spices has brought in, which was very evident during the COVID season, because we saw an upsurge in demand for spices like turmeric and ginger, which has medicinal properties. So not only in culinary purposes, the industry would like to expand the usage of spices in the nutraceutical and pharmaceutical purposes, and so that is one aspect. The other one is that we would like to. There's another major sector in which India is lacking, and that is in the seasonings and the spice mixes. If we look at the seasonings world trade, it is currently around $14.2 billion, and India's share is very low. It's only about 0.6% in terms of value, and which is very unfortunate, because we have all the advantages. We have 15 agroclimatic zones. We have a wide portfolio of spices, and also the climate and the climate and the areas where we can increase our portfolio. So with all those advantages, we are still lagging far behind at 0.6% in an industry where the opportunities are staring at us. China, for example, for instance, it was about 14.6% in terms of value, which means just in the seasonings trade alone, in which spices forms a major ingredient. In fact, one of the most important and crucial ingredients is spice in seasonings, and they have the exports to the tune of around $2.2 billion. So this is one opportunity which India can really cash in, and so that will help us in increasing our exports substantially.
Of course, our outlook will be to increase exports from India, and India has also laid out an ambitious plans when it comes to increasing exports of spices in the global market. Mr. Menon, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.